Hello everybody, welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today is Wednesday, July 1st. This is your afternoon update with the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We've just got the latest numbers in from the Ohio Department of Health, and cases are way up again. We are seeing the largest number of new daily reported cases since April 20th again. The cases are up, but the ICU admissions, the hospitalizations, and the deaths are down from yesterday. Let's take a look at the big picture right now and take a look at that 21-day average before we dive into the specific numbers. We started the month of June with a 21-day average of 325 new daily reported cases each day. Now, as the numbers have been high for the past little bit here, we are seeing that average get pulled up. So now on July 1st, as compared to June 1st when we started with a 21-day average of 325, today we're starting with a 21-day average of 633 daily reported cases, and that's because today we've seen a total of 1,076 new daily reported cases of COVID-19 in the past 24 hours here in the state of Ohio. That brings our total to almost 53,000 cases that have been reported, both confirmed and probable, based on that expanded CDC definition here in the state of Ohio. The number of new deaths reported today is down. We saw a large number of new reported deaths yesterday. Yesterday we saw 45 new reported deaths. Today we see 13 new reported deaths, and that brings the total number of people who have lost their lives related to COVID-19 to 2,876 here in the state of Ohio. The number of hospitalizations is also down. We saw a jump in that yesterday. We saw 93 new hospitalizations yesterday. Today, we are seeing 72 new hospitalizations reported, bringing that total number of hospitalizations to almost 8,000 here in the state of Ohio, dating all the way back to March 9th. That exact number is 7,911. The number of ICU admissions is also down just ever so slightly. This has been holding pretty steady here. For the past 2 previous days, we saw 15 new ICU admissions. That was on both Monday, and then 15 new ICU admissions on Tuesday. Today, on Wednesday, July 1st, we're seeing 14 new ICU admissions related to COVID-19, bringing the total number of ICU admissions dating all the way back to March 9th to now 2008. Let's take a look at the national and global numbers. Remember, it was just yesterday that our nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, told us that he would not be surprised if the U.S. gets to seeing 100,000 new reported cases of COVID-19, that we are still very much in it and we need to be cautious. Today, we saw about a third of that. There were 32,127 new reported cases of COVID-19 across the U.S. That's according to numbers posted by Johns Hopkins University. That brings the total number of cases in the U.S. to about 2,638,000, just over that. Now, the total number of deaths in the U.S., with 1,125 new U.S. deaths reported today, is now 127,385 in the U.S. Those numbers have remained pretty consistent at 25% of the global reported cases and 25% of the global reported deaths. Globally, there are now a total of 10,512,383 reported COVID-19 deaths. 10.5 million, just over 10.5 million reported global COVID-19 deaths. Cases. The total number of deaths globally is now 512,331. So over 500,000 deaths globally related to COVID-19. Now let's take a look at where we stand in terms of a vaccine. Pfizer today has just reported that the first of 4 experimental COVID-19 vaccines being tested by its German partner, BioNTech, is showing encouraging results in very early testing. This is testing of just 45 people. The company is saying that today. So in the test, study volunteers were given either a low or a medium dose in 2 shots about 1 month apart. And those study recipients had immune responses in the range that is expected to be protective, meaning expected that it would prevent them from getting COVID-19. That's compared to some COVID-19 survivors. Side effects in these 45 people were pretty typical for vaccinations, including mostly pain at the spot where they were given the injection and fever. So the report has now been submitted for publication in a scientific journal, but has not yet been reviewed. Now, there are other potential candidates that are still in early stages of testing. Pfizer does hope to begin a large-scale study this summer, but the company is not yet sure which of the possible vaccinations it will move forward for in that way. Now, regarding this particular vaccination that we're discussing right now, there was a higher dose that was tested, but they've decided not to move forward with the higher dose for the second shot because there were injection reactions that were apparently a little bit worse and didn't seem to add much benefit with the higher dose shot. So this particular vaccine, they're talking about the low to medium dose and potentially moving forward with that. There are right now about 15 different COVID-19 vaccine candidates that are in human testing. That's around the globe. Several are expected to begin last stage studies soon to prove if they do actually work, if they do provide any sort of immunity against COVID-19. Different companies are pursuing different types of vaccines, boosting the odds that people are hoping one might work. Here in the U.S., that's been dubbed Operation Warp Speed, testing multiple vaccinations to see which one moves forward most quickly and which one is most likely to result in a viable vaccine here in the U.S. So earlier this week, Inovio Pharmaceuticals issued a release saying that it has a gene-based vaccine that is showing encouraging results that are similar, and its early testing involved 40 volunteers. So that's where we stand, making some progress in terms of a vaccine, but as the medical experts will tell you, we still are a ways off, but progress is good. Speaking of progress, in the city of Columbus, the statue of Christopher Columbus that was outside Columbus City Hall has officially been removed. Crews got there at 3 a.m. this morning and it took them about 3 hours once they got their crane in place to remove the statue. Last month, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther announced that the statue would be coming down because it does not represent the values of the city of the Columbus, our state's capital. So when he announced that, he asked the Columbus Art Commission to launch a community-driven process to embrace diversity and to figure out how best to replace that statue of Christopher Columbus, to evaluate the diversity and inclusiveness of all public art in the city, including other monuments, statues, and art installations. So there will be public input as to what will go up to replace the statue of Christopher Columbus. And for now, the city is putting the statue in safekeeping at a secure facility. That's under the guidance of the Columbus Art Commission, McKay Lodge Art Conservation Laboratory, and Smoot Construction. The commission is also being asked to look at other symbols associated with the city of Columbus, including the seal of the flag, and to make any recommendations necessary for change in order to promote the values of diversity and inclusiveness of the city of Columbus. In an interesting turn today, President Donald Trump has said that he will veto the defense spending bill, and that is in an effort to keep military bases named after Confederate soldiers. He said he would veto the massive spending bill to keep bases like Fort Bragg from being changed, to keep those names from being changed. This is going against the sentiment of the Republican Party, and it's also putting a 3% pay raise for military in limbo at this time. Democratic Senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, got bipartisan support in order to include the amendment for the bases to be renamed within 3 years. So here is a summary of what Trump tweeted today. I won't quote it directly because he does use a term to refer to Elizabeth Warren that has been considered offensive and derogatory. I will veto the defensive authorization bill if Elizabeth Warren's amendment, which includes renaming of Fort Bragg, Fort Robert E. Lee, and many other military bases from which we won 2 world wars, is in the bill. Senate Minority Leader, who is a Democrat, Chuck Schumer, responded to the president. Here's what he said: "I dare President Trump to veto the bill over Confederate base naming. It's in the bill. It has bipartisan support. It will stay in the bill." This bill, as its annual measure, has passed every year for almost six decades and usually does not come under the potential veto threat from a president, although it has been delayed over negotiation issues in the past. The Senate's Armed Services Committee did approve Warren's addition to force the bases to be renamed, so that will be within 3 years, and that was by voice vote last month, and a commission would be set up to oversee that process of renaming those bases. Senate Majority Leader, Republican Mitch McConnell, said that he won't fight the amendment proposed by Elizabeth Warren that is currently included in the bill, and that he's okay with whatever negotiators decide on the issue. Today, the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives panel is holding a day-long drafting session in order to iron out the language, and they will surely be addressing that topic as well. Today, July 1st, is the start of summer camp, which is also being called Spring Training 2.0 for the Cleveland Indians, as Major League Baseball looks to return at the end of this month to having games, though at least initially without fans. Our 3 News' Dave Chudowski was able to talk with Curtis Danberg of the Cleveland Indians to talk a little bit about what fans can expect this season. So he asked whether or not fans will be expecting to see the inside of Progressive Field at all this season. Danberg said, "We just don't know. There's so much unknown." He said, "We're going to put a plan together, but at the end of the day, it's about the health and safety of our players and the health and safety of our fans." He also asked whether or not people would get to see Slider inside the stadium, from a camera as people are watching from home, as they're not allowed to be in the stadium, at least not right now. And he said yes, that Slider will be there. He'll be practicing physical distancing. He will have a mask, and that mascots are allowed in the ballpark. So we can all look forward to seeing at least Slider, at least on our screens, when the Indians do take to the field, along with other Major League Baseball teams at the end of the month, with that start date being either July 23rd or July 24th. Some other rule changes that we can expect as Major League Baseball starts to get underway: there won't be any spitting or tobacco or sunflower seeds for the players. There'll be no player-to-player contact except for making tags, of course, as you have to in the play of the game. Temperature checks, COVID-19 testing, and all 30 teams will be in for 60 games in 66 days. Both leagues will use the designated hitter. That's supposed to cut down on potential injuries. And extra innings will begin with a runner on second base. That is not something that is expected to last beyond this shortened season, but it is something that they are bringing up from the other leagues this season in order to cut down on potential injuries and having those games go on and on and on. And one more story to end things on for you here. There is a lunar eclipse happening this weekend on the 4th of July, on Independence Day, America's birthday. So Saturday night, the full moon will pass through part of Earth's shadow, and that'll create that lunar eclipse. We'll be able to see that here in parts of North America and South America. This will be the first lunar eclipse from this part of the world since 2019. People will also be able to see it in Africa and Western Europe. But if you want to see it here in Northeast Ohio, you don't need a telescope, and it's a lunar eclipse, so you don't need any fancy sunglasses, but you will need to know what time to look up at the sky. So the eclipse will start on Saturday night at 11:07 p.m. Eastern. It will continue into early Sunday morning at 1:52 a.m. But the best time to look will be in the middle. So right around 1 a.m. Eastern is going to be the best time to look up and catch that lunar eclipse. Late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And after this, if you want to check out something similar, you're going to have to wait until November 30th for the next opportunity to check out a lunar eclipse. And then after that, May 26th, 2021. So this Saturday night will be a great night to check out the eclipse if that's something that you're interested in. That's it for our 3 News Now afternoon update for Wednesday, July 1st. Next up, we have What's New coming up at 5 p.m. I'll bring you your trending stories there, as well as your entertainment headlines and a look at the census and why it's so important. So make sure you catch that, along with all the other news from our hosts, Jay Crawford and Betsy Kling, and our weather personality, Matt Wentz, and everyone else who joins us on What's New. We'll also have more for you on What Matters Most at 6 p.m., on Front Row at 7 p.m., and What's Next at 11 p.m. And then I'll be back here with you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. with your 3 News Now early update. Everyone enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'll see you at 5 o'clock on What's New. I'm Stephanie Haney.